Hi Graham.
Hi Lisa, how are you?
I'm really good, thanks. Thanks for joining
Wonderful.
me this morning.
Oh, I'm glad to be here. It's wonderful.
Yeah, I know I've an absolutely blinding day. So can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your involvement with the creative arts?
Oh my God. My name's Graham Farrell. I'm from Teesside originally. Travel the world. Back home at the minute. I write theatre plays, stage play, screenplays, and I'm lucky to be in a position. Well, before lockdown, where my plays are produced around the world, and had a movie based on one of them made in LA last year, and other things in the pipeline. When this damn thing passes, this flaming pandemic that's locked us all in. And yeah, I like that. I write, and I'm in a position where, as I say, it's the plays are produced around the world. It's absolutely wonderful. All my plays are set here, and but they all adapt well to different countries, different cities, different languages, and so it's pretty special. Yeah.
Brilliant. So how did you get to this point? Have you always been creative? Did you come from a creative background? What's your journey
Um,
there to here?
Not really. Yeah, it's a good question. Really, it's one that's asked a lot. Wasn't really any creativity in my family as such. It's just I always like to was always good at writing essays at school. Funny enough, and I was it was the only thing I was really interested in. I had a really active mind, and I always remember one of my teachers really encouraging me, and I just wasn't interested. It's not cool, is it, at that age? You want to be hanging out and doing naughty things and not sitting and writing essays and expanding your mind. And it kind of always stuck with me, and I think without kind of being melodramatic about it, I just sat down one day and I thought, there's a book in me. I really want to kind of get this out, and I wrote a book, and it was actually published about 30 years ago. But it wasn't really my forte. I didn't. I'm a dialogue man, and I started. There was one idea, and it wouldn't work as a novel, and it worked as a play. And I thought, I really like this. I really like the way it's in the moment, the way the language just drives the story, and that worked. And it kind of, without belittling it or whatever, it just kind of um, it didn't happen quickly. I'll add, but it just kind of from that initial, it didn't work as something, but it works as this, and it just kind of mushroomed into like a career really now. Yeah.
Yeah, really interesting. It's like the different ways in which people have kind of got to the position that they are. And, and talking to quite a lot of people that it's just like, it's just something that's happened to them or through them. And they've just kind of had this passion and followed it. And
Yeah, absolutely. And you find it, as you say, you'll hear a lot of people will say, they can't, dialogue is very difficult for them. They can't write it. It's not natural for them. So, they're better writing description or whatever. So they'll write a novel, and it'll work for them, and they won't touch a play again, or they won't. People might have problem writing a screenplay, but it's so bitty and it's all visual or whatever, and it's almost, you've got to cut the writing so much there's not any words in it. But it's finding that, isn't it? What you finding your forte, what you're good at, what you enjoy, and kind of. I mean, you can diverse a bit, but because they're all so different, I think the three, the novel, in my experience, the film and theatre, it's kind of fine, as I say, you kind of dovetail into the theatre more so myself, even though I'm writing more screenplays at the minute, which I don't enjoy as much, as I say, because it's so bitty. It doesn't a film doesn't flow. You think of every camera angle and every, where a stage play is just, it's beautiful, isn't it? The words will just come out right from the start. You'll go right through it. I mean, that sounds a bit simplistic. I wish it was as simple as that, but you know what I mean. It's as opposed to writing a screenplay, it's much more fluid and fluent and enjoyable, I think.
so do you use like formulas and stuff? Do you have like your characters with their objectives and their objectives and your inciting incident and like all this kind of formulaic, like how do your ideas start and then how do you kind of shape them?
Yeah, good question, which is asked a lot actually. I always start with character. Even if I get an idea about, I don't know, you walk, I don't know, for example, you walk past a bus stop and there's a guy sitting there and he looks sad. I think to myself, well, why is he sad? What? And then you kind of, from that kind of tiny, tiny little incremental passage, I start, my mind's all over the place. He's sad because he's done this, or he's sad because he's gone to a funeral, he's sad because of, and then once you've got that initial link, hook, then I build the character and the story comes through the character. Character is so important. I want to know what that man eats for breakfast, what football team he supports. Is he married? Does he have dogs? Does he have cats? Does he really everything about him? And then when I know everything about him, the story will come from that. That's the way I do it. I
That's
spent
really
ages on the character. I spent a long, long time, really, really, like weeks, possibly months before. And then when I do start, because I know everything's going to come through, it almost like writes itself.
exactly my experience. I was always convinced that I couldn't write dialogue. I've been involved in the theatre for like 25 years.
Yeah.
But I was actually convinced I couldn't. When I was doing my MA, we did this screenwriting course, and I just started writing these character development sheets. And
Right.
all of a sudden, I had two really, really clear, distinct characters in my head, and they just started talking. And it was,
Right.
I
Yeah.
just kind of started writing down what they were saying, and that was
Absolutely.
such a big
Absolutely.
breakthrough for me.
Yeah. It's almost like you probably agree. Yeah. It's like what you got, like a stenographer. In court, it's like I can see just above. I can see them acting out, and I'm kind of typing up what they're doing. That's the only kind of way I can describe it. Really, it's happening 2 seconds before I write it down. That's the kind of thing I think.
Oh, it's brilliant, because I know, a lot of people don't work that way, and it's all
Oh
about.
God, yeah. It's people and they'll. I find, I don't know whether you'll agree or disagree, or what your colleagues think. I never write anything until I've got it. I won't sit there for, head in hands and try and push it out. I'd rather do nothing for eons of time, but it just doesn't work. And if you do push it out, you'll look at it the next day and it'll be absolutely terrible. And I try and tell this to people, oh no, I feel guilty if I don't force it out. Well, it's not going to work. You forced it out. It doesn't come up with love and affection. And you don't believe it because you forced it. So I don't know whether anybody believe me, but that's my. People feel guilty if they don't write every day. I think it's drummed into them, the right is right, and you must do it, and I get it if it works for them.
Yeah,
fine.
whatever works. I mean, that's absolutely, like, my friend Joe says, like, he was writing a novella, and I was like, have you written it yet? And he said, yes, I've just got to do the getting it out bit.
Love it. Love it. It's always in your head, isn't it? It's get the damn thing on the page or on the screen. Yeah, I love it.
And so how involved are you with the plays, with the films that come out of your scripts?
Sorry, what do you mean by how involved?
I mean, do you just hand the scripts over and they're made, or are you involved in the whole production process?
It's obviously in theatre you're more involved. In film, it's a lot trickier. As I say, my play Rattlesnakes was made into a film last year, and I wrote the script, and without being rude, by the time the director got hold of it, the actors had got hold of it, the ice cream man had got hold of it. I think it was pretty different to what I envisaged. Let's put it that way. But it's an experience. I think film business sums it up. I think you realise that there ain't much creativity in film when you get to that stage. Luckily, I've written a couple more. A film of mine's going to be made in Paris earlier next year. In fact, there's a short film and a full length. And thank God that because they believed in the project, they gave me free rein. And it's like my vision. And it's like for a writer who's starting out really in film, it's like a godsend. I didn't. So that's pretty incredible. The two different things. For Rattlesnakes, it's a decent film. I don't think it's a great film. It wasn't dark enough for me. It wasn't really my vision. But to be allowed to use my vision in the next couple is great. I think that the difference in theatre, it's you send a script out, you send a play out, and you know, they'll do it. It's very rare that they'll enhance it. The director will give one or two you know, different like spins on it, but it's basically what you see is what you've written, which I think is fantastic. But their trust that your work will work in that will work for them is pretty special, I think, really.
Yeah, interesting, because I'm ridiculously possessive, like, you know,
Oh, they'll knock that
write
out
my
of it.
plays, direct my plays, star in my plays. I'm like that Dennis Waterman character in.
Oh God, yeah.
So I really need to let go of that. Although I don't have time to write anymore. I'm doing this.
Well, I bet.
So I guess why do you write? Why, you know, why this involvement in the creative arts? What does it give to you, and what function do you think it plays in wider society?
Well, for me, it's just I couldn't think of doing anything else. It's the most, and I think, you know, coming back to the situation we're in, this lockdown thing, that being able to write is the most cathartic experience on any level. I think to be able to get all the, you know, you can't stand up and scream all day, but you can kind of get that emotional scream out on a page. I think that's really important. I mean, I literally can't. I'm a bit of kind of got words. I'm in a bit of a funk at the minute where I'm kind of, you know, lost between, are we going to get the virus? Are we going to get the vaccine? Are we going to, you know, all these, there's still so many. So I think that kind of anxiety plays in it and knocks your creativity a bit. But I think in terms of being able to write and having, I think for me, having that knowledge that, which is a lovely feeling, if I write a play that some director somewhere a producer will put it on. So I've always got something to aim for, and that's pretty, you know, it's taken decades to get there. I'm not being flippant. It's been really difficult. And that is sometimes when you don't feel, you know, you haven't got it. You haven't got that zoom when you get up in the morning. You think, but somebody's waiting for that. And I think that's a really nice feeling. To think you know, when I started out, I wrote this play called Talk About the Passion, which is, it's been staged across the world. It's got, you know, it's done really, really well. And when I first sent it out, everybody hated it. Nobody would give it. You know, I kept some of the rejection letters, and they were just, this play will never ever work. But I always believed in it, you know. And there was one pub theatre in London, the Bird's Nest in Deptford, believe it or not, and they picked it up in 1998, and it's been produced ever since. And it's just kind of that endless belief and that endless knowledge that somebody somewhere, you know, will give you that helping hand, will give you the start, and you can kind of go from there. I think I've gone off topic a bit, haven't I?
No. I think that's really important and really, really worth saying. It's like, you know, this idea of natural ability, or how easy it is, or, you know, that it doesn't take decades of really, really
Jesus.
work, and accepting all the blows and the knockbacks and the setbacks, and carry on doing it anyway, and refining your craft. It's,
Yeah.
you know, it's very, very rare that someone's just naturally brilliant and has a stunning career as a result of it.
It's very, I mean, honestly, I don't know anybody. And I think people who don't work in the arts have this image that we're all multi-millionaires. We all, you know, sail yachts around the Mediterranean and drink champagne. They don't seem to have any concept of the really, really. It's like this thing recently, isn't it? About, you know, this when Dominic Cummings started having a go at, you know, right, train. No, it wasn't Cummings. It was the other guy, wasn't it? Rishabh.
Yeah, Sunak.
Well, that's right. He told everybody to, you know, retrain, and I felt that nobody else understood that. You know, to us, it was a job, it was a passion, it was a life. It wasn't some. I think the public seemed regarded it very flippantly. All right, you know, we don't need these people who sat and watched Netflix and listened to music and watched live theatre streamed and all this. You know, is it made by pixies and warlocks and magicians in, you know, in country lanes or whatever? They don't seem to understand it. People
mean,
are behind it.
all these billionaires that think they're going to be so happy hanging out in their boring concrete bunkers with no arts and art.
Exactly.
You're going to be left with yourselves, mate, and that's going to be worse than anything. Jesus.
Exactly. They don't.
People I know who actually put their details into their career pathfinder, like retrain. They're all being told to retrain in the creative arts.
I know. Yeah, I did that for a laugh.
Circus performance or fairground attendance. It's like, or being told to do the job they're already doing.
Absolutely. It just proved it that for me that people just see it as, they don't understand. They see the product, but they don't see. I had this conversation with somebody about making. I said, "Do you understand how many people are involved in making one film? From the caterers to the dolly to the grips to the." And they really, honestly, by the time I finished with them, they were changed. They just didn't seem to, but they didn't have to think about it. They typed in Netflix, and this wonderful film came up, and they watched it, and didn't think that, it had been made and whatever. There was people behind it, and there's just no concept in it. And I was going to say it hurt. It didn't. It just pissed me off. It just, really annoyed me. Just the whole. Nobody seemed to back us. I think that's what I'm.
Yeah, exactly. And we don't seem to have a voice in it. I've got nothing against the fishing industry. Total respect for it. But 24,000 jobs that involves, and they're deciding the entire fate of our nation, whereas there's more than 2 million people in this country employed in the creative arts. Brings more than agriculture, more than automobile industry, aviation, and more. Like, it does my head in.
I know.
How unself-aware we are.
Yeah, it's just seen as a hobby, I think, for people. It's just, it's. I mean, I've found it putting a couple of things on Facebook about it. People in the arts responded to it, but the people, even good friends, even didn't. You're not getting up in the morning, and you're not going down the mines and getting your hands dirty. It's not. That's how I feel. Even people who I think even among close friends, they just don't get it, and well, bollocks to them. I don't. Yeah.
Well, if they tried to live a day without art,
exactly. I hope they've got the message. It wouldn't. I don't think they have, but
actually, I don't normally get this ranty. I try and sort of.
Either.
But stuff needs saying if it needs saying, doesn't it?
Damn right, it does. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I forgot the last part of the
No, I think we've absolutely covered that. I'm gonna have to finish off with a bloody lockdown question. So,
oh no,
has it affected your creativity? And is a pathway out there, or are you just going to wait and see what happens?
I think it affected me for a long time, just in case because of the situation, I felt like I couldn't concentrate and couldn't create anything, because it's all or nothing. Like I said before, it's not. I can't do it with one eye on a cell phone and one eye on the computer. It's got to be all or nothing. But I actually wrote, I think 6 monologues actually. I started writing a monologue, a female monologue. And and it really worked, and I thought, well, let me write a couple more. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I wrote 6. And there's a West End theatre producer. He's going to stream them. He's got the rights to them, and he's going to stream them. So that's pretty wonderful. And I heard a couple of days ago that a company in Istanbul produced Talk About the Passion now. I went to see it a couple of years ago. In fact, it was in its second run this year in March when everything shut down. And they're going to stream it. They're going to do it again in the theatre and stream it live, which is absolutely wonderful. So it's not the same. We get it, but it's something. If we can't get in the theatre, well, at least streaming something, we've got that kind of, reminder it's out there, and things I'm really kind of, even though we're still all, full of war and full of kind of, sadness, and it's like unpredictable, isn't it? I'm finding that producers are looking to put the plays on like later in the year and whatever, so things are slowly starting to pick up, and the films are back in pre-production, so you get a sense that we are getting there. But it's been, on the one hand, it's been, as I said earlier, it's been great to write, to get to get it out of your system and to focus on something else. But it has been creatively, it's been damaging, no doubt, mentally damaging, as I'm sure you'll agree.
Yeah, I've not been able to write. I've written 2 short poems. That's it. But I've been doing this, and this has been an absolute.
Well, exactly. That's it, and it's fulfilling, and it's interesting, and it kind of opens it. You know, Teesside isn't. I mean, I admire you for doing this and pulling people together, because I tried years ago, and it felt like we were never connected. You know, on Teesside, although there were and are creative people, there never seemed to be any. I remember going to, I don't know whether I should tell you this actually. I went to ARC once, and I said, would you like me to do some I've been doing workshops, you know, all over different countries and whatever, when I never had been doing a few in the US and whatever. And I came to ARC and I said, would you know, I'd just like to give something back, because I'd had some letters from, you know, asking now, you know, from students or whatever. And no, they weren't interested. Okay.
ARC kind of have, I guess, I think they have like a whole mentoring thing.
I think so, yeah.
I've you know, I think it's quite hard to get in. I think it's kind of they find people and bring them up themselves. I think,
yeah,
the way they work, and I you know, I respect that, and that's, you know, their way of working. If you ever want to come and do some workshops for Arts Lab Teesside, then you would be incredibly welcome to do.
Oh, good, absolutely. This is what I've always said, that I've always kind of, you know, wondered really, because wherever I've been, you know, asked to talk about like the journey and what have you, and you know, all over it. And it's just something that's never really happened, and it always kind of, well, it doesn't bug me. You know, I just kind of used to question, can I, you know, I'm a local guy, and I've done fairly well, and it's a story that it could be inspiring to people. I just don't understand why you don't want to, you know, get it out there. I mean, you know, there's reasons, and you know, some, like you've said, the closed shops and you know, I wondered whether they're, without being rude about it, if you're too professional, the kind of, you knock a few noses out of joint, you know, that type of, you know, that type of thing. I think to be told no, not, oh, let's think about it. You know, we've got somebody who does it, but you know, if you want to come in and, you know, do a couple, it was just like no. And well, after that, I even went back a couple of years later when Rattlesnakes was first out there as a movie. I said to them, can we do the play? Can we do that? You know, we're talking about Frank Rodham coming in to direct it. He loves the play, he wanted to direct it. And he'd get, you know, Timothy Spaulding. You know, we were talking Kevin Whately and all these fantastic actors, Ray Winston. I put, no, not interested. So I got me thinking, well, it's either me or they just don't want ultra professionalism there. You've got to turn down Ray Winston, bloody Frank Rodham, Kevin Whately at the ARC on, you know, I felt like
that is really interesting. I mean, I have to say, I do kind of respect that in a way, because maybe it is just like you are too big and too professional and too established. And if the focus is on bringing up and nurturing their own talent, then yeah, I do respect that. But
did they do that this year? Because I don't really know much.
If you ever want to come and put that play on at Auxiliary, we've definitely got the room for it. And,
right.
Yeah. So listen, I've run over into the time I should be on my next.
Oh, I was enjoying it as well.
But we can definitely pick up on this, and
absolutely.
Great to carry on conversation. See what we might plan.
That sounds wonderful. I look forward to it.
Brilliant. It's been absolutely brilliant to meet you, and let's raise a glass as soon as we're allowed to.
Damn right. Look forward to it.
Take care.
Wonderful. And you. See you soon. Bye.